Why is measuring so inaccurate? When you're super faithful to measuring out the proportions on a drawing, why does it fall apart? I'm going to teach you the pros and cons of measuring and hypothesize why it can be detrimental to your work. What's up? Timothy Jan here. I am a draftsman, painter, and teacher. Let's get right into this. Measuring pros. Artists and teachers have been experimenting with strategies to correct this ever-present issue. Seriously, it's a problem. Learning to see means allowing you to see the relationships in nature. What are you truly experiencing? What is your reality? What is your truth? Relationships can be expressed in many ways. They can be in scale, color, or rhythm. Teachers observed that many students really struggle gaining the requisite skills in seeing proportional relationships. So to fix this, several clearly defined measuring techniques have been developed. Comparative measurement. The comparative measurement technique was developed to allow artists to see how the objects in their images relate to one another. We intuitively use comparative measurement when we ask ourselves what is in the center of an object or space. Attempting to draw a subject realistically, beginners often make these common mistakes. The object will grow or shrink out of proportion. To counteract this, we teach students to begin to internally relate proportions within their image. When using comparative measurement, you will identify an area in the image that you want to know. What is the length of area X? Now, we need to find an area in the object that we can relate it to. We can see here that area Y appears to be the same length as area X. Let's check. Now, your drawing indicates what you believe the length of area X is. Then, measure area Y on your drawing and check the length of area X. Oh my God, this is like math. For the bobos in the back of the class with me, basically, to check yourself, do the process in reverse. Nailed it. Another way of using comparative measurement is to determine how long an area is. Let's look at A compared to B, or how many A's fit into B. In this example, 2.5. Mechanics of measuring. When taking a measurement, you want to visually align the top of your pencil with one end and your thumbnail with the other. Your arm needs to be straight out. This is key. Avoid tilting the pencil forward or backwards, as this will lead to major distortions. As you interrelate the scales, avoid bending your elbow. When this is done correctly, the relationship you're observing tend to be accurate. But at times, issues arise. Let's try to determine why. When drawing observationally, there is a triad you have to be aware of: subject, light, artist. They are working from what is referred to as the viewing point. This point is a fixed spot that is in constant relationship to the other 2 points. An easy way to remember this is if you placed a tripod down for a photo, this would be where the sensor of the camera would be sitting. From your viewing point, all of your measurements take place. Unless you're trying to draw cubism, then go nuts. Now, this brings us to the key point. The measurements you are taking are happening on what is known as the picture plane. Between you and the object you're observing, imagine a piece of glass. On that piece of glass, you can envision a 2D projection of the contours that exist. Your drawing is a representation of this picture plane. When you're observing an object, if you move left, right, forward, or backwards, this will change all of the relationships. I have seen my students do crazy stuff in the studio when observing their subject. If you're standing, stay standing. If you grab a chair to sit down, stay seated. Going back and forth between 2 orientations, yes, that's going to give you problems. Slouching in your seat causes even more problems. How about going piggyback? Tip: lateral movement tends to really trip students up. Make a mental note of a shape you are observing. If you're moving too far from one side or another, it will change dramatically. You can see this here where line X really changes as we pan. Sight size. When drawing sight size, artists set up their subject and easel so that they are both seen 1-to-1. The easel can be in front, behind, or parallel to the subject. Be careful that the drawing surface is not sitting on an angle from the viewing point. If it is, all of the measurements will be distorted. Success in site size has a lot to do with the setup. Impatience in setting up will ruin any attempt. The drawing must be parallel to the subject. All observation must be taken from the observation point. To start working site size, you need to establish a plumb line. For a more in-depth look at this, check out this video. Hold your pencil or brush up to observe and check all of the horizontals. From your viewing point, the lateral distances outward from the plumb line can be measured and then placed on the drawing. If this technique interests you, there are many good resources online. Check the description for some links. Measuring cons. When I was learning and measurement techniques were introduced to me, initially I had some success. This success started to lead me to measure everything. I went deep down the measurement rabbit hole. At a point, progress really started to plateau, which forced me into investigating as to why the measurements were no longer working. A few things came to my attention. One of the issues we face when measuring large areas is distortion. If I hold my arm straight out to take a measurement, it starts at my eye level. As my arm swings down to measure things that are lower, the angle to the object changes as it descends. The further the arm moves away from my eye level, the more extreme this is. This arc pulls the arm off the established picture plane, and this is where the real frustration comes in. I have seen students go bonkers carefully measuring an object only to see that the drawing looks clearly inaccurate. Another major issue in devoting yourself to an extreme application of measuring is that you lose objectivity and begin to no longer listen to your internal instincts. As these teaching tools are introduced to you, you want to learn to listen to yourself. Another one of my teachers, Anthony Waichulis, would always say, "You're looking for a marriage of product and fulfillment. Your artistic intent matters in learning." From my perspective, use whatever techniques make sense to you that allows you to make the images that you intend and enjoy. What measurements do you use? Please let me know in the comments. Measuring against a plumb line is incredibly helpful. Check out this video here with a detailed explanation of how that works. Create something awesome today. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.